The Mets are now 10-3, which is the best record in the major leagues. And as I turn to Jim Palmer, it's amazing that the Cardinals, who won the National League Championship last year, scoring runs, creating runs, stealing bases, hitting Willie McGee and people like that, in a collective slump. Everybody's hit rock bottom outside of Ozzie Smith.
Well, that's true. What they have done is they fielded well, which everybody knows they're going to do. And the pitching has been fairly decent. That was a question mark going into the year, but they have not been able to score runs. And baseball is there's so many negatives. When you go into a slump, I think it becomes a mental type of thing. We were out here at 11:30. The Mets were still in bed at that time. The Cardinals were out from 11:30 to 1:30 taking extra hitting. Johnny Lewis, the batting coach, is saying, are your hands feel comfortable? Are you doing this right? Whatever. The Mets, on the other hand, they rolled out of bed at about 12:30. They come to the ballpark. They know that today is going to be another hero. They're going to get good pitching. They're going to score some runs. And as you said, in 1 week, the nature of baseball can can change so much. I think the important thing, of course, though, is only 14 games for the Cardinals, 13 for the Mets. It is a long season.
Well, nobody's been able to pick it up for the Cardinals, and then on the other side, you have the Mets, where you expect people like Strawberry and Foster and Carter and Hernandez to do it, but the man who's really been doing it is Ray Knight out of the 7th spot.
Well, exactly. 37 times up this year. He has 6 home runs. Last year, 251 times he only hit 6 home runs. But the Mets have a tough job today. They have John Tudor going and trying to tie Bob Gibson's Cardinal record for 15 consecutive wins, 3-0 on the year. One of the toughest pitchers in baseball, so they have their work cut out for them.
So the Cardinals are trying to snap a 6-game losing streak and end this series with a victory. And I talked with Cards manager Whitey Herzog earlier. Whitey, you've been around a long time, so slumps, collective team slumps, are nothing new. But is there anything you can do as a manager to help a ball club get out of a slump like this?
About the only thing you can do, Al, is have patience. I mean, I know that these guys are going to hit a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to all hit as good as they did last year or anything like that, but I know Tommy Herz is a pretty proven major league hitter. Willie McGee's been up here 5 years and lifetime average of 300, and we just got to hope that things get better. But we've played, well, we haven't won a game since you had us in Montreal last week, but by the same token, we've lost 6 in a row, but we really could have won 4 of the 6 ball games. Just one hit here or there. We're just not getting the base hits right now.
ABC Sunday Afternoon Baseball is being brought to you by Chevrolet, who invites you to drive today Chevy, live today Chevy. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud for you. By Steel, when it comes to quality, Steel the one. And by IBM, the way we put it all together is what sets us apart.
In the Mets lineup today, because Kevin Mitchell makes his major league debut. The rookie is at shortstop, Tim Tuffle at second. Keith Hernandez is at first, with Gary Carter catching and Darryl Strawberry batting 5th and right. George Foster is in left. The hot man, Ray Knight, is at 3rd. Len Dykstra is batting 8th today as they drop him in the order. He hit a home run yesterday. Dykstra in center, and Bob Ojeda is the pitcher. And the Cardinals, whom Whitey Herzog calls the best defensive team in baseball history. Jack Clark at first base, though he made an error yesterday. Tommy Herr is outstanding at second. And you need not know very much more about Ozzie Smith if you've seen him at all in the past. The third baseman is Terry Pendleton. It's tough to get a ball through the left side of this infield. The outfield is very fleet. Vince Coleman is in left field. The center fielder is last year's MVP, Willie McGee, in center, as you get another look from another angle at Coleman chasing down some paper. And there is Willie McGee in center, and the right fielder is Tito Landrum. He platoons with Andy Van Slyke. Back of the plate is the man they picked up in the deal with Oakland that sent Joaquin Andujar west, Mike Heath. And the pitcher is John Tudor, who is as close to being unbeatable as anybody in this ballpark. Tudor off to another good start this season after a tremendous year in 1985. And he has won 18 consecutive games in this ballpark, including 1 game in the playoffs and 1 in the World Series last year. But he won 14 straight during the regular year to close it. 1 in the playoffs, 1 in the series, and 2 already this year at home, as Mitchell looks at a strike and the count is 0-1.
Makes the art of pitching look very simple. Basically 3 pitches, fastball, a kind of a slurve between a slider and a curveball. You'll see mostly the left-handers, and one of the best changeups in baseball.
Kevin Mitchell, a rookie who has been platooning this week with Len Dykstra in center. For the most part, in his minor league career, Mitchell was a third baseman, and he came up at the end of last year and played in a couple of games at third for New York. 1-2. Dutch Rennert is the plate umpire, and you will have no doubt in your mind when a called strike comes across the plate, with Rennert the most vocal of the crew. Montague, Brocklander, and Wire, and there is Dutch. But Mitchell getting the start at shortstop today for a couple of reasons. They want to keep him in the lineup, and also Rafael Santana, bothered by a bruised finger. Howard Johnson got the start at shortstop yesterday. 2 balls, 2 strikes, the count.
And also, I think you're seeing the prototype of maybe the player that you will see when the rosters, as they have, gone to 24 players. Somebody that can play, I guess, a multitude of positions. Mitchell played all 3 outfield positions as we see the ball popped up.
In foul territory, and Terry Pendleton might have room, drifting over, but it's in about 2 rows.
And also in spring training played shortstop, third base, and first base. Not to mention that he does have a particularly quick bat. Had a very good year at Tidewater last year. 9 home runs, .290 batting average. Very solidly built young man, 5'11", 210 pounds. But very quick.
Quick, but not the prototypical leadoff hitter. He stole only 3 bases in the minors last year, and he fouls this one straight back, and it's 2-2.
As you look at John Tudor, loves to pitch here. It's the best baseball park in America to pitch in, and of course John Tudor makes it, I guess, maybe that type of park because he does have excellent control. Only walked 19 batters in all his starts here at Busch Stadium.
That's squibbed on a hop down to Tommy Herr, and the second baseman throws out Mitchell. 1 out here in the first inning, and Tim Teufel, another of the new Mets, comes up. Teufel acquired in the offseason from the Minnesota Twins. And Davey Johnson has been platooning at second base. The theory being that Teufel plays against the lefties, and Wally Backman, though Backman is a switch hitter, he is far more proficient as a left-handed batter. Backman plays against the righties.
Well, there's almost a 190-point difference when you're talking about Wally Backman from the left side, where he hit over 300, to about 122 right-handed. So Teufel gives him.
As he lines it back to the box, and Tudor helps himself by knocking it down, keeping it there, and throwing him out.
Teufel's a first ball fastball hitter. Tudor challenges with a fastball, and once you release the ball, you do become an infielder. Reflex play. The big glove helps. Knows he has plenty of time. On balance throw for the second out of the inning.
So 2 down, and Keith Hernandez. Mixed response, as you might suspect, and that has been the case since he was traded from the Cardinals to the Mets in 1983. Comes up hitting .283. Does not have a home run this season. Interestingly, Hernandez and George Foster are still looking for their first home run 3 weeks into the year. Strike. 0-1. A bit breezy and some papers blowing in the ballpark, but it's another very warm day. And the scent of suntan oil permeates the mezzanine level at Busch. Off the hands and down to short. Ozzie Smith gathers it in, and that's that for the Mets here in the first inning. 3 up and 3 down, and at the end of a half, it's the Mets nothing and the Cards coming up.
Chuck.
Like this, as Whitey Herzog has shaken it up somewhat. Vince Coleman to lead things off. No change there, but Ozzie Smith moves into the number 2 spot, and Tommy Herr still bats third. Jack Clark is the cleanup hitter. They have dropped Willie McGee behind Clark to number 5. Tito Landrum is the right fielder. Terry Pendleton, the switch hitting third baseman, bats 7th. Mike Heath, really struggling thus far, is the catcher, and there is John Tudor, who was able to set the Mets down in order. Keith Hernandez is the Mets first baseman. Tim Teufel is at second. Kevin Mitchell is making his major league debut at shortstop. And the third baseman with 6 home runs is Ray Knight. Met outfield has George Foster in left. Lenny Dykstra is in center, and we'll tell you about Mookie Wilson in a moment. And the right fielder is Darryl Strawberry. Back of the plate, per usual, is Gary Carter, and the pitcher is Bob Ojeda. And we can tell you that Mookie Wilson, who was injured in spring training, played last night at Tidewater as part of the rehabilitation program, went 1 for 5 in a AAA game, and the Mets are hopeful they can get Wilson back by mid-May. In the meantime, they've been using Dykstra in center, and of late, Kevin Mitchell.
Well, as we said, they're very high on Mitchell, and they know what Mookie Wilson can do. In fact, well, maybe they don't because of the shoulder injury, but gives them an ample chance to see what Mitchell can do here in the major leagues and see whether he is a major league player indeed.
Vince Coleman, like all of the Cardinals outside of Ozzie Smith, having a tough time of it at .213 with 3 RBIs. And he went 8 games without stealing a base until yesterday. Rounds it toward the middle, base hit into center field. So we have our first confrontation right now with Coleman, who stole 110 last year, and Ojeda, who, as I recall from the American League, Jim, is a pretty good pickoff move.
Not a great one, but above average as we see the ball bounce into center field. And again, I think it's something that we talked about. If you're a St. Louis Cardinal, you know today, if things go the way they should, you don't need to get too many runs. It's not like you have to score 6 or 7 runs to win.
Ozzie Smith, a switch hitter, and Ojeda with his B move over to first base. The Cardinals have stolen only 3 bases in their last 6 games. Part of the reason they haven't had that many base runners. Low for a ball, 1-0 the count. Smith hitting .319, which is by far the highest amongst those in the lineup today. The next highest average would be Jack Clark at .241. To give you an idea how things are going for the Cards. Smith tries to bunt and fouls it away, and the count is 1-1.
One of the reasons that the Cardinals normally are such a great offensive ball club is because they do have 5 switch hitters usually in their lineup. Of course, when you turn them around, the only batter that becomes a better hitter from the right side is Coleman. But as you said, this year Ozzie Smith is really, of the 5, the only hitter that's having an outstanding start.
Breaking pitch is lined to left field. Foster comes charging in and knocks it down. Coleman, who had to hesitate, now moves to third, and the Cardinals have a threat in the first inning.
Ojeda gets a pitch up in the strike zone. Again, Foster, not known for his defensive ability, slightly hesitates. You can't do that on AstroTurf. Lucky the ball didn't go by him. Coleman with his speed, no doubt about it, is going all the way to third. Very fortunate that Ozzie Smith did not end up with a double. Here we are in a situation now where if you're Bob Ojeda, you know that you're not going to get a whole lot of runs to work with. When you sit in the locker room before a game and you face a guy like John Tudor, you know that you're going to have to pitch well to win. Already it's first and third, nobody out.
Mets looking for a double play. Infield back, and it's up high. Ozzie Smith, the runner at first base yesterday, he took out Wally Backman at second base as you look at the defensive alignment in an attempt really to get things stirred up. The Cardinals a bit lethargic. He upended Backman. The Cardinals did rally yesterday, had the tying and winning runs on base in the 9th inning, but a great double play started by Backman, and the Mets had a victory. And that's grounded down to short, where Mitchell goes to Tuffle, and Tuffle drops the ball, and everybody's safe. It was not a crisp toss from Mitchell to Tuffle. Tuffle appeared to wait for it. Davey Johnson's going to come out and argue that they should at least get the force out, that Tuffle had control of the ball long enough at second, but mistiming here on a soft toss from Mitchell and a low one. Now Tuffle appears to have it, and then the ball will drop out, and Johnson's arguing he had it long enough.
Of course, the ruling is he has to have possession. The umpire has to feel he really has possession of the ball, and you can kind of see for yourself right here whether he did or not. If he is taking the ball out of the glove in an effort to complete the double play, you get the out. If not, all runners are safe, and that's the case.
Eddie Montague ruling he did not have possession, even though it appeared from that second angle that he was in the process of making the transfer. Mitchell gets an assist. Tuffle gets the error. The Cardinals lead 1-0. Runners at first and second and nobody out, and Jack Clark takes a strike on the outside corner. 0-1.
It's almost one of those plays, Al, where it was a bad toss from Mitchell to Tuffle. Tuffle is thinking less about getting the one out than completing the double play, and gets neither. Sets up the big inning situation.
0-2 the count. Another look from this angle now. Now from that angle, it doesn't look as if he has possession. The bare hand was not quite there, ready for the transfer. So from that angle, a good call by Montague. And Clark hits it high in the air to right center field. Lenny Dykstra moving over. Both runners are tagging. Smith is on his way to third, and he's in there as Herr holds at first. So a long fly ball by Clark, and the Cardinals have runners at first and third. One out, and Willie McGee coming up.
Number 51, center fielder
Willie McGee, the batting champion last year, so a paltry figure at 219 with 1 homer and 8 runs batted in. And he's been among the hotter Cardinals this week. He really got off to a slow start. He was down in the low 1s.
You see the excellent curveball from Bob Ojeda. Tudor and Ojeda are very much alike. Both came from the Boston organization. Fastball, curveball, which we just saw, and an excellent straight change from Ojeda. To be effective, he has to keep the ball in that area, which is down in the strike zone. Also needs a little bit better defense from the shortstop and second baseman. I think as many managers, Al, when you get in a losing streak, you kind of change the lineup. McGee usually bats second, now batting fifth. As we see, the great changeup right on the outside part of the plate for strike 3.
So 2 down, first strikeout for Ojeda, and Tito Landrum is the batter.
Well, this is a big strikeout. If McGee hits the ball on the ground, very tough to double up. Last year only twice. If he hits a routine grounder, you're going to at least get another run. Therefore, a big strikeout by Ojeda.
If one word would sum up Ojeda's big league career so far, it would be erratic. He's had days when he's been brilliant, and others when he could barely get anybody out.
But you often wonder, I of course pitched at Fenway Park many times when I played for the Orioles over the years, but I was right-handed. To be a left-handed pitcher and to look out there constantly, as we see again Landrum swinging right through a changeup, to constantly have to think about that wall, I think he has to be pretty happy. Not only is he out of Boston, but he's with a quality team like the Mets.
Strike 1 pitch is unintentionally grounded down to second, and Tuffle throws him out. So in the inning, the Cardinals settle for a run on 2 hits, and at the end of 1, it's 1-0 St. Louis.
These days, Johnny Bench's bench is at the 19th hole.
Out of the second inning at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, 1-0. The Cardinals on top, trying to snap a 6-game losing streak. The Mets, meanwhile, who twice last year had 9-game winning streaks, are trying to duplicate that. 1-0 St. Louis in the second inning, with Carter, Strawberry, and Foster coming up. Gary Carter off to a good start this year, but he's facing Tudor now, a man against whom he's hit 120 lifetime. He's 3 for 25 against the Cardinal left-hander.
Without any home runs, and I think that's the... We talked about John Tudor liking to pitch here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and one of the reasons, of course, is the dimensions of the ballpark. This time of the year, the ball carries a little bit better than it will in the summer when it becomes very humid, but very spacious outfield dimensions here.
Fly ball to right field, and an easy play for Tito Landrum. 1 pitch, 1 gone, and 4 in a row set down by Tudor. A look at the spacious dimensions here. It's the toughest park in the National League in which to hit a home run.
If you look out towards left center and right center, which are what they call in baseball the power alleys, you can see a sign that says guess, Busch Stadium, just really where the second deck stops. If you hit the ball really to the middle part of that part of the ballpark, the ball doesn't carry at all. Down the lines, you have a chance to hit the ball out.
And as Whitey Herzog said, earlier in the year, you have a better chance. He said once the humidity begins to settle in the summertime, forget it. 0-2 the count. But it's a summer-like day today, even though it's not nearly as humid as it would be on a similar day in terms of temperature were you to come back in July or August. Half swing, that fooled him, and Strawberry's gone. And Tudor makes short work of Darryl Strawberry.
Well, we talked, he doesn't use his breaking ball, but only against lefties. And here, the big, wide, sweeping, really slurve has Strawberry way out on his front foot. Commits himself early, can't stop the bat, strike 3.
2 down, and George Foster still looking for his first home run this season, though he's hitting .282. And the only visiting player to hit 3 home runs in this ballpark last year. Mets and the Cardinals developing one of the better rivalries of late. In the last 22 games between these two teams, 13 have been decided by 1 run, and 8 have gone into extra innings. A strike. 0-1.
And that's the pitch that really makes John Tudor, I think, as effective as he can be. In the first inning, he jammed 2 of the Mets hitters. He will pitch everybody away. He'll establish the outside corner, come in off the plate. Very hard to hit the ball off your fist. If you do, it usually results in a pop-up, a weak ground ball to the infield.
That's shot to the right side. Clark waits for it to come down and over to Tudor for the out. 2 perfect innings for John at the end of 1.5. 1-0 Cardinals.
Test pilot.
Where Terry Pendleton will lead things off for St. Louis. And then Mike Heath and John Tudor. White Sox and Detroit are scoreless. The Yankees leading Cleveland 4-1 in the 5th. Toronto has a 5-0 lead over Baltimore in the 3rd inning. California and Minnesota tied up 5-5 in the 3rd. There's rain in Kansas City delaying that game. Rain in Texas delaying the Milwaukee Ranger game, and Seattle and Oakland meeting later. NBA playoffs. Boston beats the Hawks by 12 to go up 1-0. Terry Pendleton, 1-0 the count. Rain in Kansas City delaying the Boston game would indicate that we could be in for some here in St. Louis, where it's partly sunny right now, but some clouds are moving in. Hernandez fields and takes care of Pendleton. Pendleton is among those who at least has been hitting the ball rather sharply on occasion, though his average is low. Terry coming in hitting 189. Mike Heath not hitting at all. Heath is 4 for 43.
And we talked about the 2 hours of not extra hitting, because only maybe 30 or 40 minutes of that 2-hour period was designated to that type of extra hitting. But Johnny Lewis, the batting instructor, was working with Mike, and he was saying get your hands active and whatever. And those are just things that happen when you go 4 for 41. You start thinking about what you're doing at the plate. If you are on a hot streak, you just go up there and swing the bat, look for the ball.
Grounded toward the hole, and there to glove it is Mitchell, and throws him out. So Heath is now 4 for 44, and 3 of those hits came in 1 game against the Expos as Tudor comes up. Here you can see how the 2 careers parallel each other. Their records with the Red Sox. Ojeda coming up a year later, and similar in terms of their progress with Boston. Then in '84, Tudor went to Pittsburgh, and then the big trade to St. Louis last year, culminating in a tremendous season, while Ojeda's been around the 500 mark with the Red Sox. Chopper, Mitchell gloves, throws, and gets him. So Tudor is gone, and so are the Cardinals, and at the end of 2, it's 1-0 St. Louis. Success in this ballpark, and here's what Whitey Herzog thinks.
Well, of course, Al, you know it's a very big ballpark. And if pitchers don't walk people and make them beat you instead of them beating themselves, you have a wonderful chance of winning. He can change speeds real well off his fastball. He doesn't throw many breaking balls, and as long as he throws strikes and keeps the ball down with Ozzie Smith at shortstop and Terry Pendleton at third. And, of course, Vince in left field and Willie in center. We got an awful good defense in those 4 spots, and he does a super job for us.
And thus far today, he has set down the first 6 he has faced, and he'll go to work on the bottom of the Mets order in the top of the 3rd inning. Cards on top 1-0, getting the run in the first on singles by Coleman and Ozzie Smith, and then an error on a grounder hit by Tommy Herr.
You don't want to give people the idea that he doesn't win when he's not here in St. Louis. Started out last year, and talking about John Tudor, 1-7, went on to post a 21-8 record, so he can win on the road too.
Ray Knight has the highest career average amongst the Mets against Tudor, 286 lifetime against the Cardinal left-hander, and Knight has been hot. 4 homers in his last 5 games. Leading the majors right now in slugging percentage, .865. Total bases divided by at-bats.
Notice the upright stance. That's the big change between 85 and 86. Bill Robinson said, got pretty strong hands. You're in a crouch. Of course, he did have vertigo, did have shoulder problems, did have chips removed from his elbows. So he changed his stance. He's gone to an upright stance. His shoulder feels better. His elbow feels better. I'm sure his mind feels better with 6 home runs and 37 times at bat. And I think what it is, I talked to Ricky Horton, who threw one of the home runs on Friday night. He said when he gets the pitch to hit, he hits it.
Down to second base, Tommy Herr gathers it in and throws him out. 1 away. Well, if Knight could have a big year, the Mets will be particularly tough to beat. Another look at the upright stance.
And he's looking fastball, and he gets one. But then again, what Whitey Herzog said about John Tudor is that he keeps the ball down, and it's down in the strike zone. Ball's on the outside part of the plate. He hit the ball hard, but he hit it right at Tommy Herr. Good swing, but also a good pitch.
Len Dykstra at the plate. Off to a good start. Hit a home run yesterday after he had attempted to bunt twice in the 1st inning. Reason I say if Knight has a big year, the Mets will be particularly tough to beat. He's just not one of the fellas that they necessarily figured on. As a matter of fact, they were talking about trading Knight, and still are in effect. Chopper foul at the plate as Dykstra started to get out of the way of the pitch and makes contact.
Well, what makes Lenny Dykstra tough, and the way he can hit left-handers, he hangs in. He stays. It's really just a check swing, and of course, I think he went to drama school when he was a kid. If he couldn't play center field for New York, I think he wanted to be an actor. Feisty little player, though. I think Davey Johnson, to keep him in line, he hits a home run. He's not supposed to do that. He moved him down in the batting order just to let him know who has the upper hand.
Yeah, Davey said you couldn't lay down a bunt, and down he goes here. So Tudor overmatches Dykstra. Again, and there are 2 down.
We talked about the breaking ball. He doesn't throw it to right-handed batters. Just when he gets 2 strikes to lefties, tries to hold up. Look there, bat head out in front of home plate, strike 3.
Now Bob Ojeda, who did not bat in the American League with the Red Sox and has been up 5 times as a Met with 2 hits, both coming in the same game against the Pirates last week, his last start. 0-1. To the right side, Clark gloves it over to Tudor, and John has started by retiring the first 9 Mets. It's 1-0 Cardinals in the middle of the 3rd.
You buy Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
Bottom of the 3rd inning. 1-0. The Cardinals on top. Coleman, Smith, and Herr. Vince Coleman started the Cardinals in the bottom of the 1st inning with a single and came in to score on Herr's ground ball. Switch hitter. Rookie of the year last year, and no doubt you recall the incident with the tarp rolling up over his knee during the playoffs and taking him out of the World Series. leaving us all to wonder what might have been, even though Tito Landrum came in and did a great job early on in the series replacing him. But it did cause the Cardinals to reshuffle their lineup. And Coleman does a lot of things that may have made the difference.
Like stealing 110 bases. The one thing he wanted to improve on this year was the strikeouts. Struck out 115 times last year. We see him pop one foul down the right field line. The one thing that the Cardinal, most of their hitters, and I was talking to Whitey Herzog before the game, I said it's kind of uncharacteristic for your team to go into a slump because you basically only have one hitter that's a home run hitter. We talked about many times as we look at Whitey Herzog, the philosophy of setting up this team was to go out and get a Jack Clark, which they did last year, because the rest of the guys are the type of guy that swing down, hit the ball on the ground, and then run. So you wouldn't think they'd be in prolonged slumps. Stand around the cage. Johnny Lewis, the batting coach, talks about hitting the ball on the line, on the ground, taking advantage of their speed.
3-1 pitch is ripped by Knight into left field for a base hit. Foster gets it back in, and Coleman is 2 for 2. So the extra hitting that Vince took this morning paying off. Another leadoff single, and Ozzie Smith coming to the plate.
Again, the count has a lot to do with 3 balls, 1 strike. You can look for a fastball. Coleman does, drills it into left. Foster almost plays this into a triple. Goes right off his glove, and he barehands it.
He's very lucky it didn't get by him. Ozzie Smith, who singled in the first inning. Coleman with a good-sized lead at first. And there he goes. Smith bluffs the bunt. The throw down to second, not nearly in time. Vince had gone 8 games without a steal. Now he has 2 in 2 days.
Well, off with the pitch. He's going on the move. Ojeda does not have a great move. Carter makes a good throw. Has no chance at all.
That's 6 steals for him, and he has not been caught this season.
That's the one thing I think of the 29 attempts. They've been successful 25 times. I think the interesting thing about the Cardinals is even though they are an aggressive base running ball club, they don't take a lot of chances. Whitey has them running in good situations. The percentage of the amount of bases you steal as far as being a high percentage much more important than the actual number.
Fouled away, and the count 1 ball 2 strikes on Ozzie Smith.
Ozzie trying to take a shot to get Coleman to third base, something the Cardinals did so well in 1985. Tommy Herr with 110 RBIs last year. Many of them came with less than 2 outs, a man on third base. 2 strikes. I think Ozzie will still maybe try to give himself up and go the other way and advance Coleman to third.
But he grounds it down to Mitchell. And Smith is gone. So Ozzie winds up trying to pull it, and Coleman is still at second with 1 down.
Well, I think, Alex, it was a situation where Ojeda was a little bit better. If you know a hitter is trying to go behind the runner, hit the ball to right field, the easiest pitch to do that is either the ball away or the ball inside, especially if it's a fastball. Took a little bit off, threw him a curveball. He was way out in front. The result was the ground ball to shortstop.
Now Tommy Herr hit a ground ball in the first inning, which was fielded by Kevin Mitchell and then dropped by Tim Tuffle for an error. So Herr is 0 for 1. 1-0 the count. Coleman at second. 1 out, 3rd inning. The Cardinals attempting to break a 6-game losing streak on top 1-0, and the Mets seeking their 9th win in a row.
Coleman is a threat to go. Last year, 10 times he stole both second and third. Cannot take your time getting the ball to home plate.
He bluffs going and scoots back to second. 2-0.
It's very unnerving to stand on the mound, look behind there, and see your infielders dancing behind the base runner and know, especially with a guy with quickness like Coleman, that he may break at any moment. And the most important thing for a pitcher to do is the time between when he starts his windup and the ball gets to Gary Carter at home plate in this instance. You cannot be slow to home plate with your delivery.
2-1.
See Tommy Herb a little bit disappointed. 2-0, looking for a good pitch to hit. Swung at ball 3, almost over his head. Again, slumps have a way of doing that. You want to get a base hit so badly, you want to get that extra run in. You sometimes become overly aggressive. You expand the strike zone.
Pickoff play is on, but Coleman gets back. Two and one. There he goes, and it's grounded to short. Mitchell throws to first, and Hernandez makes a great play for the tag, because what Keith was thinking about was the same thing Coleman was thinking about, and that was coming home. So Mitchell with an errant throw, but saved by Hernandez, and Coleman rounds third. Thought about coming home, but Hernandez came up with a play.
Well, Mitchell takes a look because he knows the same thing. You have Hernandez thinking that Coleman may score. You have Mitchell thinking as he makes the tag on Tommy Herb. And that's what speed will do. It makes everybody think. It's to me the one part of any sport that changes the nature of the game. And you have to be on your toes when you're playing a team that can run like the Cardinals.
Coleman now at third with 2 down, and Jack Clark at the plate. Fly to center in the first inning. The Cardinal woes perhaps best illustrated by Clark. Going into yesterday's game, which was the 14th of the season for the Cardinals, Clark had hit 2 home runs, both with the bases empty, and had not driven in another run. Hits it in the air to deep right field. All the way back goes Strawberry, but has room on the warning track. And in almost any other park, that one's out of here. Instead, the Cards leave Coleman at third. It's 1-0 St. Louis, and we'll be back after this from our local stations.
The Disney Sunday Movie proudly presents an enchanting animation.
There's Keith Hernandez of the Mets, and he talks about what a 4-game sweep would mean to the Mets.
Well, you know, it would be great to sweep them, but you know, it seemed like last year the Cardinals hit us when we were down. Now this time we've hit them when they're struggling offensively. They're not hitting, and they've got a lot of great hitters on this club, and they're going to come out of it sooner or later. But it's nice to come here in their backyard and catch them when they're struggling, because they can put up a lot of runs on the board. And I also think that a lot of credit goes to our pitching. I mean, Sid Fernandez was just outstanding last night. I mean, this to me is the most difficult lineup to get a lot of strikeouts against, and Sid struck out 10 in 8 innings and was really in command.
Again, a look at the third out in the third inning. It's 383 to the gaps here at Busch Stadium, and the ball doesn't carry very well.
You look at the flags, yeah. Flags are blowing really straight to the left field corner, so that ball was held up by the wind. Otherwise, that ball most likely is a 2-run home run, and we're looking at a 3-0 ball game.
Instead, it's 1-0, and Kevin Mitchell to lead things off with the Mets in the fourth inning. Mitchell, Tuffle, and Hernandez. John Tudor has been perfect through 3. Inside to Mitchell, 1-0.
Going back to that question that you asked Keith about what a 4-game sweep means, and mathematically from a ball player's standpoint, it can mean 4 ball games, 4 in the loss column.
Mitchell hits a high drive to left field and deep, and that one will carry out of here. And if the wind is indeed blowing to left field, and it is according to the flags on the roof, even though it does tend to swirl in this ballpark from time to time. But that one got up in the jet stream, and out it goes to tie it. Kevin Mitchell. First Cardinal, or first Met hit. First base runner for the Mets, and the first home run of his career.
Really looks like a fly ball off the bat.
Grounded down to third. Pendleton over to first to take care of Tuffle on the next pitch, and is one away.
First, they talked about some of the home runs Friday night. The second one that Ray Knight hit, they felt was just a fly ball, and ended up being in the second deck. The wind looks like it is blowing about 25 miles per hour towards the left field corner, but does it affect the ball? Obviously it does, at least the one down the left field line.
Little doubt as we sit here watching the two balls that Clark and Mitchell hit. Clark's ball hit much harder, but stayed in the park in right center. And Mitchell's ball, as you say, a fly ball to left field that just kept on going. Outside to Hernandez. Tudor had started the game with 20 consecutive scoreless innings against the Mets. 2 September starts last year, 10 innings each. 1 victory and 1 no decision. And then he had 3 more scoreless innings today, but that all comes to an end. California leads Minnesota 6-5 in the 4th. Still raining in Kansas City. Milwaukee and Texas are underway. Seattle and Oakland later. Foul back. See, last night were some 80-mile-per-hour winds blew a couple of holes, I guess, in the Metrodome roof in Minneapolis. Forced some people to vacate the seats. Held the game up for about 10 minutes. And as soon as they got things back underway, the Angels hit 3 2-run homers. Was that it in the 9th inning?
And as Tim McCarver said, the roof caved in twice. Pretty good line by Timmy.
Not bad. Two and 2 on Hernandez. Full count.
We talked about the home run that Kevin Mitchell hit. I think this is why the Mets are so high on him. Change up, middle of the plate. He just kind of took it, flew out the left, and it went in the second deck. Good young looking player. A lot of talk that if George Foster is not re-signed for 87, he will be the left fielder.
Base hit into right field for Hernandez. So Keith is at first with 1 down. Gary Carter is the batter. And in the National League at Wrigley Field, Montreal 1, the Cubs nothing in the 4th. Pirates are leading Philadelphia 8-5 in the 6th. Houston hot, leading Cincinnati 3-0 in the 2nd inning.
And leading the National League West
by a game over San Francisco. If you missed it last night, the Giants won. Will Clark hit a 10th inning home run to beat San Diego 3-2. At LA, Atlanta beat the Dodgers 5-4. Houston was a winner. Mike Scott 4-hit shutout. Winning run scored on a pass ball in the 9th inning last night as Houston beat Cincinnati 1-0. Grounded to Smith. To Herb, and he throws it away and throws it down into the corner where there's a lot of room. Hernandez is being held by Harrelson as Carter stops at second, and Heath, not knowing where Hernandez was, dives for the plate blindly, and that'll make this week in baseball. A great hustle job by Heath, but nobody was there.
It looks like it's going to be 2. From this angle, it looks like the throw is just to the first base side. Jack Clark saves a run with some hustle right here. As we see. Pretty nice tag, Mike.
Right fielder Darryl Strawberry.
Talk about a phantom tag. Strawberry at the plate. Infield playing back. So the Mets could take the lead on a simple ground ball with runners at second and third. Strawberry struck out in the 2nd inning. Tudor working from a windup. Little chopper to the right side, and Clark has to make the play at first base as the runners each advance, and the Mets take a 2-1 lead. Strawberry driving in his 7th run of the season on the ground out, and it's 2-1 New York with 2 down now, and Carter at third. And Foster coming to the plate.
You wonder how teams get into losing streaks. Have a pitcher a little bit on the ropes. Tudor makes a bad pitch to Mitchell. He homers. He gets behind Hernandez. Singles to right. Then you make a good pitch instead of a double play. You have a 2nd and 3rd situation, and now you have a chance of giving up another run. you don't make a good pitch to Foster.
And that's into center field for a base hit. So George drives in his 5th run of 1986 as Carter comes in to score. The big error by Smith has given the Mets 2 runs and a total of 3 now with Mitchell's homer here in the inning. It's 3-1 New York.
George Foster, an idea. Once hit 52 home runs, still has a lot of strength. Just fights it off. Pitch up really on the inside part of the plate, fights it off into center field for the 3rd run.
Ray Knight at the plate. The Cardinals coming in had made only 7 errors in 14 games. None by a middle infielder, meaning Smith or Herr. They lead the league in fielding. That's been their trademark. And so Ozzie Smith on what would have been a double play, throwing it out of Herr's range, and the Mets are capitalizing.
What an interesting conversation, and I think one of the big question marks for the Cardinals, along with whether they're pitching after trading Andujar to Oakland would be good enough to repeat, was the shoulder problems with the rotator cuff care of Ozzie Smith. And he was talking in the batting cage today about how he feels how older people that get arthritis, that have aches and pains, feel all the time. He said his shoulder always bothers him. On days like today, a little bit less.
Knight lines it to center, and McGee comes in on the run to make the catch. But in the inning, the Mets capitalize, score 3, and lead 3-1 after 3.5.
The measure of a champion.
Look at the first home run of Kevin Mitchell's career. The Mets shortstop hitting John Tudor's delivery over the left field wall in the 4th inning to make it 1-1. And then the big play of the inning, coming on the grounder to Ozzie Smith. What normally would be a routine double play grounder off the bat of Gary Carter is an errant throw, putting runners at 2nd and 3rd and leading to 2 more Mets runs and a 3-1 New York lead as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Landrum and Pendleton coming up. Willie 0 for 1, struck out in the 1st inning. 0-1. McGee having a little better success hitting right-handed this year than left-handed. As you look at some salient Cardinal numbers, the World Series last year at 185, and McGee hits it in the air to deep left field, and that one carries out of here. So that's the spot to hit it today. For Willie McGee to make it 3-2. 6 homers for the Cardinals as a team this year.
Well, last year he hit 10, 7 from the right side. Ojeda gets the ball in the middle of the plate, and as you said, Al, left field's the target place today. The ball just goes rocketing over the wall.
Willie McGee making it 3-2 New York, and Landrum at the plate. Both of McGee's home runs this season have come right-handed. 1 ball, no strikes the count. Landrum being platooned at the outset of the year with Andy Van Slyke in right field.
Talk about momentum in baseball. If you're Bob Ojeda, see your team just score 3 runs to go ahead 3-1. You want to come out and shut the door, and he has not been able to do that.
The center field where Dykstra has a lot of room. 1 away. Landrum gone, and Pendleton coming up. Cardinals, as we say, 6 home runs this season in this game number 15, and all of them have come off left-handers. Pendleton grounded out in the 2nd inning. Terry's average low at 185, but as we said before, at least he's been hitting the ball rather sharply. And yesterday, he was the victim on that sharp bouncer through the middle that Backman turned into a double play. 1-0.
Terry Pendleton came up to the Cards. In fact, we did the game, I think, the night that he joined them in New York in 1984. Hit .324 over the last month of the season.
Ripped, and that's off the glove of Ray Knight, and Pendleton will be aboard. Knight trying to backhand it, almost held on.
Well, he saves a double, definitely. By deflecting the ball, he does save it from going down into the left field corner for a sure double. Gary Carter goes out to talk to Bob Ojeda. Reflex play by Knight. Lucky to get a glove on it. Knocks it down. Retrieves it for the base hit. I think Gary Carter, as we see Ray Knight diving to his right. Right off the end of the web. Because of Pendleton's speed, you have to play in a little bit because he does bunt.
Now Heath. Pendleton goes, gets a great jump, and the throw not nearly in time. He was halfway to second when Ojeda delivered to the plate. Carter had no chance.
Well, once again, they know that Ojeda does not have a good move, and they are going on his first move, which gives Gary Carter virtually no chance. Pendleton stole 17 last year. As you see the late attempted throw by Carter. No matter how quickly you get rid of it. If you steal it on the pitcher, you don't have a chance.
Opposition has now stolen 16 bases in 19 tries against the Mets. Fouled away. And really, that's got to be, I would think, a reflection more of the pitchers than Gary Carter.
Well, another thing, delivery time. In other words, they say if you don't get the ball to home plate under 1.4 seconds, the catcher, virtually whether the runner is quick or slow or whatever, has no chance to throw out the runner. Then you couple it with the fact that most of the Mets pitchers are rather tall, which means they have more elaborate windups. Gooden, Darling, Aguilera. You're just going to create a lot of stolen base situations. Carter does get rid of the ball quickly. He has a good arm.
0-2 to Heath. Is a little squibber back to Ojeda, who checks Pendleton. And Heath's woes continue. He's 0 for 2 today and 4 for 45 this season. 2 down, and John Tudor comes to the plate. He grounded out in the second inning. 2 down. Pendleton at second. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning at St. Louis, where the Mets are seeking a series sweep. 3-2 Mets. Jody Davis has hit a grand slam at Wrigley. It's 4-1 Cubs in the 5th. Pirates are leading the Phils. Cleveland has caught the Yankees now. It's 5-5 in the 7th. Tudor in the air to right center field. Strawberry takes charge, and the inning is over. McGee, the leadoff homer, and at the end of 4, 3-2 Mets.
Give me a light.
Coming up, I asked Ray Knight what it feels like to always see your name in the paper as the subject of a trade rumor.
I've heard all those rumors, and at first it hurt me, but I just kind of use that to stimulate me a little bit more. I certainly hope they don't trade me now because I feel like I'm a part of this ball club and I can really help this club. But anyway, if I do get traded, I finally back to where I was 3 or 4 years ago, and I know that I can help a ball club play, and that's something that I wasn't really sure about as far back as 6 months ago.
He's been one of the key men this week and throughout the Mets surge as they've won 8 straight. Lead here 3-2. We go to the 5th inning. And we can tell you that the Kentucky Derby next Saturday at Churchill Downs in Louisville will come your way on ABC at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, and 1:30 Pacific. With Snow Chief, the big favorite to win the 112th Derby from Louisville next Saturday.
And you'll be there.
Yes, sir.
I understand you're taking Howard's role.
Is that correct?
That's what you told me last night. I didn't.
Howard Johnson?
Yeah.
Role to be determined.
And then the next week you go off and sequester yourself and start writing the book, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Len Dykstra. It's a fly ball to center field. Willie McGee is there and makes the catch. It's either Howard Droll or Eddie De La Houssa's. I haven't decided.
You probably can't wait to get down there among all those jockeys and finally get down to look down on people.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all right, you goon. Ojeda at the plate. Grounded out in the third inning. 1-0 the count. It's all right, Palmer.
The minute ball of broadcasters you will be next week.
I'm coming back to do your comeback when you try to make it back with the San Jose Bees. I mean, everybody else has this year, right?
Right.
1-1. Have they contacted you?
Not yet.
Maybe we just planted something. One and two. They had Mike Norris there for a while, but
no, that's the problem. They didn't have him there.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be there.
Steve Howe pitching with San Jose. Darryl Thomas was there for a while as Ojeda waves futilely at a breaking pitch. And that's strikeout number 3 for Tudor. Mitchell coming up. And Mitchell will take some time to allow Ojeda to go back and sit down for a moment.
A great breaking ball again. All 3 strikeouts on that. Breaking ball to left-handers.
So so you are officially retired then, right?
Yes.
Pension starts in a couple of years?
Coming up very shortly. Hopefully.
Mitchell wraps it into left field for a base hit. So a single to go with his home run. He's 2 for 3. It'll be tough to get him out of the lineup the way he's been going.
Well, as I said, very high on it. Great bat speed. Watch the bat head get out. This is a fastball. Tudor tries to get it inside. No chance. What impressed me on the changeup that he hit for a home run is that he was fooled. In other words, he got out on his front foot. But as all good hitters do, they keep their hands back. We talked about being 5'11", 210. He must be pretty strong. He kept the bat back and flicked it into the second deck.
So Mitchell, who had been platooned over the last week or so with Dykstra, getting the start today at shortstop. 2 for 3 as Tuffle hits it high in the air to deep left center field. McGee races back, and that one is gone in the basket. And Tim Tuffle has hit his first National League home run. And the ball really carrying to left and left center today. We saw Clark's drive stay up in the breeze and caught by Strawberry at the right field wall, but that's the 3rd homer over the left field fence.
Tuffle hit 10 last year, has some power, played for the Twins in the Metrodome. As you see, Willie McGee not thinking the ball's going out. I don't know if we can get a shot at the flags, but Tudor didn't make a very good pitch, but wind is definitely helping the ball as we see Tuffle coming down the bench, getting congratulations from his teammates. And I guess going into the top of the show, as you see the flags, it's not a good day to pitch up in the strike zone, and both Ojeda and Tudor have been doing that. Not very effectively.
5-2, and Keith Hernandez at the plate. Tries to bunt his way on with Pendleton playing very deep. Keith figuring he'd at least try to keep him honest, and the count is 0-1. Pendleton figuring that there's no chance he would try it again, so he is every bit as deep at third. 1-1. In the air, but foul deep to right. Last time Tudor gave up 2 home runs in a game all the way back on the 28th of June, 85. Ironically against the Mets, but he won that game 3-2. He's given up 2 today and trails 5-2 with 2 out of the bases empty and 1-2 on Keith Hernandez, who lifts it to center field, and McGee trots over to make the catch. The Tuffle's 2-run homer here in the 5th gives the Mets a 5-2 lead in the middle of the 5th inning. For you next Sunday on Sunday Afternoon Baseball, the Cardinals take on the Dodgers in LA, or Houston against Montreal. Next Sunday at 3 Eastern Time, noon Pacific. Well, the Mets lead the Cardinals 5-2, trying to sweep this series, and Vince Coleman to lead off, then Ozzie Smith and Tommy Herr to follow. Coleman 2 for 2. Dave Johnson looking on as his club tries to make it 9 straight, and a breaking pitch from Ojeda is taken for a strike. Early in the season, so when you go 2 for 2, you can lift your average 25 points, which is what Coleman has done today. But now it will go down a few notches on this pop-up, which Ray Knight handles. 1 away.
Bob Ojeda, of course, what he has to do is we take a look at him. And what you said earlier, Al, is the most important. He has a tendency to be erratic. The ball he got up to McGee, the changeup was rocketed out of here. He has to get ahead of the hitters, which he did with Coleman. First 2 hits, as we see, a curveball for a strike. And Coleman got where in situations where he got behind, he had to come in with a fastball. So if he can stay at the hitters, head of the hitters, he's going to be very tough. He has good stuff.
0-2 the count.
Unusual movement by Ozzie Smith as he kind of backed away from home plate. It looked like he was looking for the ball inside.
Ojeda really is a big key to Mets' fortunes this year. If he has a big year, well, with Gooden and Darling and the way Fernandez is pitching and Aguilera, and then a good year out of Ojeda, it would seem they'd be unbeatable. Check swing foul.
Of course, I think when you formulate a ball club, and if you were Frank Cashin and you're looking at the 1985 Mets over the 86 offseason and say, how can I help myself? You need a guy like Ojeda to come in either as your 5th starter or a left-hander out of the bullpen. Big question mark, as we've talked about, has been the bullpen of the Mets. Will Orozco's arm come back? And some people seem to think he's lost 4 or 5 miles on his fastball, yet he has been very effective this year.
Hasn't given up a run.
Exactly.
Roger McDowell, the right-hander.
With Bruce Bereni coming off arthroscopic surgery in the role of the long man up to this point, it looks like Bob Ojeda will be the 5th starter for the Mets all year.
On the subject of the bullpen, you'll recall Doug Sisk and the great year he had a couple of years ago, and then last year a disaster. This year he's in the minors, and he's 1-3 right now at Tidewater. Two balls, 2 strikes. Smith lofting a pop-up, and Tuffle gathers that one in. Ozzie sort of reaching for that pitch as well.
Oh, it's a down and away changeup, and you talked about trying to fool the hitter. He wasted a couple of fastballs inside, goes down and away with the changeup, and Ozzie was way out on his front foot. Really nothing left. Way out there. Watch, the bat head's already out there, just trying to flick it into right field. Very hard to be successful as a hitter when you're in that position. Totally fooled by the change of speed by Bob Ojeda.
Tommy Herr is 0 for 2 today, up high, ball 1. 1-0. 5 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error for the Mets. 2 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error for the Cardinals, with 2 out of the bases empty in the bottom of the 5th inning in St. Louis on a warm, summer-like afternoon. But the Cardinals are still ice cold. 2-0. And they're taking off for a road trip following this one, heading for the coast. Going to San Francisco, San Diego, and then we'll catch up with them in LA next weekend is our Sunday presentation a week from today. That's grounded foul. 2-1. Talking about the Mets pitching to this point this year, just early on in the season, Houston and San Diego ranking 1-2 in staff ERA, and then the Mets are third at 2.88.
That's where they finished last year, right behind the Dodgers, who led under 3, along then St. Louis in second, and the Mets third.
In the air to left field where the ball is carrying, and it is carrying to the top of the fence, where Foster gets it back in on a double by Herr. So Tommy Herr nearly hits that one out. Jack Clark hit one to a similar spot yesterday that almost tied the game in the 9th inning.
Hard to tell from here, but again, Ojeda behind in the count. 2-1 pitch. Ball looks like it might carry over the wall. You see George Foster go back. Looks like it hits right in the middle of the Busch Stadium sign. About 4 or 5 feet from being another run for the Cardinals.
Now Clark, who's flying to center and fly deep to right. Herr at second, 2 down. And that's grounded to short. Loved by Mitchell. He throws him out, and that's that for the Cards. It's still 5-2 after 5, back after this from our local stations.
The Lone Star State parties in a big way when Texans.
6th inning. Next week, Wide World of Sports live heavyweight title fight. Mike Tyson, the sensational young heavyweight, against James Quick Tillis in the World Lumberjack Championships at 3 Eastern time. Special early starting time next Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Mets 5, Cardinals 2, 6th inning. Gary Carter leads things off. Gary is 0 for 2 today and grounds it down to Ozzie Smith. 1 pitch and 1 out. And Darryl Strawberry coming to the plate. Darryl is 0 for 2, struck out, grounded out. When he grounded out in the 4th inning, he did drive in a run, coming up with men at 2nd and 3rd. The 2 runs in the 4th inning created when Ozzie Smith threw a double play away on his relay to Tommy Herr, and the Mets were able to capitalize for a couple to take the lead. They got 3 in the 4th and 2 in the 5th and lead 5-2.
That's really a difference in this ball game. We talked about how Carter really did not have a lot of success against Tudor. Darryl Strawberry 2 for 17 lifetime with 1 home run. Not a comfortable pitcher for him to face. Interesting, one of the new stats I was reading where they talked about, they have a new stat, quality starts for a starter, where if you give up 3 runs or less over 6 innings, it's considered a quality start. Of course, your earned run average would be about 450 then. So I can't exactly, all I know is I would have been out of baseball about 14 years earlier than I was if those were some of my quality starts.
But you get the idea anyway. At least you keep your team in the ball game.
I guess I think that's what they're saying. Maybe they come up with another word for quality.
1-2 the count on Strawberry.
Not bad starts or something like that. Well, I remember talking when I first came up with the Orioles to Steve Barber, and he said if I hold them to 3 runs, maybe I can win. If I do it to 2, I think I'm going to win. But if I give them 3 runs, it's really like a crapshoot.
To center field where Willie McGee moves over. And that's the 2nd out. You saw Bruce Bereni throwing in the Met bullpen. Bereni hasn't pitched in a while, so he's down there right now getting in some work. There's the right-hander coming back from surgery. And having appeared in only 2 games in 3 weeks. Sometimes what will happen is you will come into the game as the potential long man, and then once there's no need for you to be used early on, you'll get in your work in the middle of the ball game, as is the case here. Foster drives it to center, and McGee makes the catch, and it's a 3-up and 3-down inning. At the end of 5.5, it's the Mets 5 and the Cardinals 2. And got all of it for his 2nd home run of the season. Both home runs for McGee this year coming from the right side of the plate, and now he faces Ojeda again as we start at the bottom of the 6th. Mets 5, Cards 2. Knight on a hop. McGee gone. 1 out in the 6th inning. And Tito Landrum coming to the plate.
you go back and look at almost all the balls that were hit hard today, they were basically either up and out over the plate or down and in. And all you have to ever do is go to a pitcher's meeting, and you know where the hitters like the ball. Because if you go to a pitcher's meeting, they say throw it high and tight or low and away. So there, obviously, the opposite applies to where the hitter wants the ball. And today, when Ojeda or Tudor have gotten the ball either down and in or in the inside part of the plate or just up where the hitter can get his hands extended, we've seen a lot of line drives and a couple of home runs.
1-0 the count. Knight short hops this one. A couple of 5-3s in the scorebook to start the 6th inning. 2 down, bases empty. And Terry Pendleton, the batter.
Third baseman.
We see Ray Knight, a routine play. Knows ball's hit right at him. He stays with it. One thing good about playing on the turf is you don't get too many bad hops. All he has to do is make an accurate throw to first base, and he does.
2 down, bases empty. And Pendleton, who has grounded out and singled. Bob Ojeda working for the Mets, his 2nd start for the Mets. Began the year coming out of the bullpen early on with all of the off days and rainouts. And Pendleton hits it into right center for a base hit. So Terry is 2 for 3 as his bat starts to come alive. Cardinals now with a total of 7 hits. They've out-hit the Mets 7-5, but New York is in front 5-2. And here is the slumpingest of the Cardinals, Mike Heath. One thing about hitting 093 at game time, it can't go down that fast and that far. Even though it is early in the season, he's only lost 4 points off the average to 089.
But what it can do is, I think, Al, is that it creates a situation of tension. You trade a guy that won 20 games 2 years in a row for a guy like Mike Heath. He's not starting out well. The team's not playing well. He knows he'll be platooned if he doesn't get hits. So even though you know your batting average will not go down, he is pressing.
He's 0 for his last 20 and futilely swings at that one, and the count is 0-1.
Mike LaValliere, I talked to Whitey Herzog, only hit 200 at AAA last year, but 2 years ago hit 300. He said, I like the way he receives the ball. If Mike Heath does not hit, as a manager, what choice do I have? I have to platoon him. And Mike Heath knows that. Couple that with he's a very aggressive, hard-nosed player.
Pendleton goes, it's inside, and no throw from Carter, and again Pendleton got a good jump. His 2nd steal of the day, and the Cardinals 3rd as a team.
Of course, when you come from the American League and you pitch for Boston and you pitch in Boston, very few teams run in Fenway Park. You don't have to pay attention to the base runners. Here, 3 runs down doesn't make a bit of difference. The Cardinals know this is how they have to get back into the game. You give them the stolen base, they'll take it.
2-1. If Heath gets on, then you've got Tudor on deck, so they'd go to the bench, and that's why Whitey Herzog has Todd Worrell throwing in the bullpen now. Pendleton is on his way to 3rd as Heath grounds it toward the middle. Backing up is Tuffle, throws and nails him. So Heath now 0 for 3, and the Cardinals done in the 6th. 5-2 New York as we head to the 7th.
One in the ballpark practically, I guess, except Terry Pendleton. He's trying to steal 3rd with 2 out here in the bottom of the 6th inning, but the ball is grounded up the middle by Mike Heath, and Tuffle, who has to make a long throw, does so with authority to just get him by half a step and to end the inning. And speaking of those tightly wrapped high-flying baseballs, as we go to the 7th inning, back in a guy who probably would have hit over 500 home runs had they had balls like that when he was playing, Ralph Kiner.
I wouldn't go that far. Maybe
no, but the ball would have. The ball would have gone that far.
Ray Knight to lead off for the Mets. Mets 5 runs on 5 hits. Cardinals 2 runs on 7. Ray 0 for 2, robbed of a base hit and a fine catch by McGee in the 4th. Came into this ball game hitting .351, 3rd in the National League. Ray with an average of .333 with his 0 for 2 today. John Tudor in the mound.
And it's in the air to right field. Tito Landrum over near the foul line. And he makes the play. 1 away.
Don't miss the Fun and Games weeknight starting at 7 when Dick Clark hosts the $100,000 Pyramid. Followed at 7:30 by Jim Lang, who has the biggest cash payoff ever on the $1 billion chance of a lifetime.
Bruce Bereni throwing in the bullpen for the Mets. He's just getting some work in, recovering from a arm operation, and the first pitch to Len Dykstra, a ball. Dykstra hitting .311. He has struck out and flied out. And this ball hit in the air to shallow left center. Coleman is there and 2 men away. So Tudor with 2 men out, working probably his last inning. He is the leadoff batter when the Cardinals come up in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Tudor's done the job against the left-handed hitters in the Mets lineup. If you don't count Ojeda, the other 3, Hernandez, Strawberry, and Dykstra, are 1 for 9 today.
Ojeda 0 for 2. And the fastball. Ball 1. Ojeda, of course, a teammate of Tudor's when they were both with the Red Sox, but that friendship stopped in the 5th inning when he threw him a sidearm curveball. Struck him out. Well, those friendships don't last when you change the name of the uniform.
Teammates no more.
2 strikes to count. Ground ball to the shortstop, Ozzie Smith. And the Mets go quietly. The score at the end of 6.5 innings, the Mets 5, the Cardinals 2. Now here's a word from Ford. On all the excitement of Mets baseball this season with a season ticket. See teams like the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Reds, and the rest of the National League. So call the Mets office at 718-507-1234 and set up an appointment to see what box seat locations are still available. Catch baseball like it ought to be this season. Call today, 718-507-1234. Well, we have a pinch hitter for the pitcher, John Tudor. It's Jerry White. White played in Japan in 1984 and 1985. He hit 37 home runs and 251. Here he has no home runs and no runs batted in, hitting 167. Todd Worrell throwing in the bullpen for the St. Louis Cardinals, and the first pitch is called strike. White was originally signed by Montreal, traded to the Cubs, was reacquired by Montreal, then went over to Japan to play. And a strike call.
Well, John Tudor uncustomarily having a problem against the New York Mets and having a problem at home. His streak of 18 consecutive home wins definitely in jeopardy as he leaves as a losing pitcher.
And his streak of 14 consecutive National League wins in jeopardy.
That would mean that Bob Gibson's mark of 15 club mark would remain intact.
The record for consecutive wins by a pitcher, Rube Marquardt, who won 19 games, and he did it from the start of the season. How about that for a record going into the end of the season with a record of 19-0?
I guess we should have said that he was off to a Rube Marquardt start. Maybe that'll become a term in baseball.
The record for most consecutive wins over 2 seasons held by Carl Hubble, who won 16 one year and 8 the next. 24 consecutive wins. And a check swing pop up into shallow left field. Mitchell back to make the play. So White is out, 1 away. Bob Ojeda pitching for the Mets. He has given up 2 runs. Allowed a total of 7 hits. Say, Mets fans, this break of the action is a good time for you to break open an ice cold Budweiser and enjoy that clean, crisp taste. Yeah, this Bud's for you. Vince Coleman, the batter. Vince 2 for 3 today. Singleton scored in the first inning. Singled in the third, was left at third. Mets leading 5-2. And the breaking ball. Check swing, bouncing ball to the first base side. Keith trying to get it in fair territory, but it goes foul.
Not only do you need to get it in a hurry to keep it from going foul, but you need to get it in a hurry to keep Coleman off of first, because the way he goes down that line, even on a ball hit like that down the line, there's no guarantee that he won't be by you before you can field the ball. It's less likely because he's hitting from the right side. But boy, from the left side, he goes to first as fast as anybody ever has, probably.
The record is 3.3 from the left-hand side of the plate, and from the right-hand side, going from home to first, the record is 3.5. That's seconds we're talking about. 1 ball, 1 strike. Good screwball, and it's 1-2. Ojeda came in with a record of 2-0. Lifetime record of 46-39. 44-39 with the Red Sox. And the screwball, and that'll take him out.
Ojeda has really been tough since he gave up the home run to lead off the 4th inning to Willie McGee. He has given up an infield base hit, a 2-out double to Herr, and a single to right by Pendleton in the 6th. But other than that, he has really pitched very effectively.
Now he'll work to Ozzie Smith, who has a single and 3 times up. And the fastball for ball 1. Mets team earned run average 2.88. And this one popped up. Kevin Mitchell, the shortstop, makes the call and catch, and the Cardinals go in order. Mets get Tudor out of the ball game, and the score at the end of 7. The Mets 5, the Cardinals 2. Now here's a word from Budweiser.
And Frank Capra's classic comedy, It Happened One Night, presented with limited commercial interruption on the $1 Million Movie.
And a new pitcher in for the Cardinals, Todd Worrell coming in.
Worrell with a record of 0-1 and a fine ERA of 1.46. He has picked up 3 saves in relief, and he's making his 8th appearance of the year. He's pitched 12 1/3 innings, allowed just 2 earned runs, given up a home run, walked 14 and struck out 7, and control has been his only real negative factor.
1 loss to the Mets in the first game of this series, when the Mets won it in extra innings by a 5-4 score. First runs that Worrell gave up, the 2 that he has given up this year. Now it's Kevin Mitchell, the batter. Kevin with his first major league home run back in the 4th inning, and he hits a fastball foul. And the left-hander is Neiman. Right-hander is Aguilera, who is scheduled to pitch in Atlanta. Randy Neiman, the left-hander. Todd Worrell, the pitcher, replacing Tudor, who went 7 innings, gave up 5 runs on 5 hits. The Mets bunched their runs and hits in the 4th and 5th inning. Tudor struck out 3 and did not walk a batter. And as we pointed out, he brought a 14 consecutive game win streak into this ball game.
And he allowed 2 home runs, Ralph, and he's been pretty stingy with the gopher ball. But the Mets have now hit 11 homers in their last 7 games.
And they have 14 for the year. Mets leading the National League in hitting. In fact, they're leading the major leagues in hitting with a team batting average of 286. 1-1 the count to Kevin Mitchell. Kevin 2 for 3 today. Batting .408. And a ball call, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike. Worrell, the hard-throwing right-hander, he's been clocked in the 90s. And this ball popped up in the air down the right field side. Tito Landrum into foul territory, and he makes the play.
Nice play by Landrum, not a routine play, as he had to go hard into the corner.
That'll bring up Tim Tuffle, who has a 2-run home run and 3 at-bats. He's hit the ball hard all 3 times he's been up. His home run, the first he's hit for the New York Mets. Last year he had 10 for the Minnesota Twins. And it's fouled away.
You bring up that fact, Ralph, about Tuffle hitting the ball hard, and all the players on the ball club have been quick to give batting instructor Bill Robinson a lot of credit for the improvement. But the Mets as a team have been making a lot of hard outs lately.
Another foul ball, strike 2.
And that's an indication that you're going well when you're hitting the ball well, even when you're not getting a base hit.
Mets working on an 8-game winning streak. Their longest streak last year, 9. They did that twice. And the breaking ball. 1-2. Tuffle from Greenwich, Connecticut. Went to St. Mary's High School there. That one got him. Well, when you hit the ball hard, you have to pay sometimes, and we'd have to say that was a purpose pitch.
Tuffle with that 2-run homer his last time up. And home plate umpire Dutch Rennert out to say something to Worrell, and Tuffle did a good job of keeping his vital part, his noggin, out of the way. Now Rennert's going over to remind the Mets dugout that you better not be retaliating.
That's kind of a dumb rule.
I don't like it at all.
Because now the Mets can't return the favor. If they do, the pitcher will be ejected from the ball game. The warning has been given to Worrell. He'll get a fine. I believe it's $50. Really nothing.
But the problem with the rule created to curb that is that it gives the guy who does it first a free shot.
That's right.
And he doesn't have to worry about coming up to the plate next time and getting flipped himself.
Tuffle hit by a pitch, so Keith Hernandez the batter, and this ball popped up. Terry Pendleton at third base, and he makes a catch in foul territory. So Keith 1 for 4 today, a single back in the 4th inning. And now Gary Carter the batter. Gary is 0 for 3. He is tied with Jeff Leonard for the National League RBI League lead with 16.
Gary has scored a run today, reaching on a fielder's choice. And he's now scored 13 runs in the last 13 games. And it's in there for a called strike.
Carter batting .315 for the season with 2 home runs, 16 runs batted in, and he goes after the fastball.
Well, that was a prototypical high tight fastball. Worrell can bring it up there in a hurry, and that time he got it in an excellent location against Carter.
Tied a World Series record by striking out 6 consecutive batters in relief. Record set originally by Todd Eller in the 1919 World Series. A good play by Pendleton. The long throw is high. Carter does not get there in time. So Pendleton, a fine defensive play.
Well, Terry Pendleton has received rave notices for his defensive play here in St. Louis, but he's even better this year than he's been in the past. We've already seen him make a half a dozen fine plays this year.
So no hits, no runs, and no errors. A fine play by Pendleton. And the score at the end of 7.5 innings, the Mets 5 and the Cardinals 2. Now here's a word from Ivory. have to rush home for. News 9 prime time, weeknights at 8, with all the latest news, weather, and sports from the Channel 9 news team. New shortstop for the Mets, Rafael Santana, replacing the starter for the New York Mets, Kevin Mitchell. Kevin making his first start at shortstop in his professional career, and he had quite a day at the plate with a home run and a single and 4 times up. And coming in for the play-by-play as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, Mets leading 5-2, Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks, Ralph. It'll be Tom Herr to lead it off, Jack Clark and Willie McGee to follow. Santana's been bothered by a bone bruise on his thumb, and that's one of the reasons why he's been rested the last couple of days, except for late innings. Of course, he came in yesterday's game and made an error on the first ball hit to him. Herr takes high, ball 1. Tom is 1 for 3 with a double and an RBI.
Mitchell did a good job at shortstop.
Yes, he did.
Handled a total of 6 chances. Did make a bad throw on a potential double play situation. The error was charged to Tuffle.
1 ball, 1 strike to Herr. That's not easy, even though you play it in spring training. It's not easy to come in and make your major league debut at a position that you're unfamiliar with in front of 40,000 fans.
Had 6 assists and 2 putouts in the 7th inning and that big home run.
Well, that's one reason he's in there somewhere, is because he's hot and he can hit. Had 2 more hits again today. Ball 2 to Herr, and it's 2-1. Ojeda has allowed 2 runs on 6 hits. He has struck out 2 and has not walked a batter through the first 7 innings. I should say 7 hits he has scattered. Popped up into short left field. Foster coming on. Will get there. 1 away.
Good pitch right there by Ojeda. He got into his kitchen, jammed him on the high inside fastball. Now he'll take on the dangerous Jack Clark.
Clark has been held at bay so far, 0 for 3. He did drive one deep to the wall in right field to end the 3rd inning with a man aboard. He's flied out one other time and grounded to short. And he takes low for ball 1. Looked like he was taken all the way again, and it's 2-0.
Tommy Herr tried to work out a walk. Now Jack Clark trying to walk and get on for Willie McGee.
Two and 1. So Clark has taken a strike, and he probably will not take another one, at least intentionally.
You better believe it.
Especially ahead in the count. And he pops one foul out of play down the right field line, and the count now 2-2. Clark is hitting .375 against left-handed pitchers so far this year. The only home runs he has hit, 2, have come off left-handers. And he's hit this one deep to left. Foster back at the wall, can only look. It's out of here.
Goes after this one, picks up his 3rd home run of the year. Breaking ball, and he got it. Last year, Clark had 22 home runs. And now the Cardinals are within 2. One of the best swings in baseball. Look at the rotation of his shoulders back, and then he goes into it. I like that swing.
And again, as Tim pointed out, that down and in pitch. Clark went down and got it and lost it. Second home run given up in the game by Ojeda, and the count 1 ball and no strikes on Willie McGee, who homered back in the 4th inning. A shot for a base hit to left. So with the Mets now leading 5-3, McGee obviously a threat to run at first base with 1 out.
Oh, this ball was really ripped right by Ray Knight. Knight had to be playing in to guard against McGee's speed, and McGee just drove it right on by. And Jesse Orozco starting to throw for the Mets. This game is far from being over. With the way the ball is going out of this ballpark on this hot day here in St. Louis, anything can happen.
Tito Landrum 0 for 3 is grounded out twice and flied to center. That'll be out of play for strike 1. Ojeda that time had McGee going back to first base on his delivery to the plate. The Cardinals have stolen 3 bases in the game already.
Landrum played a long time in the minor leagues and had to work in the wintertime. He got a job as a detective in a store, and a suspected robber got away from the store, and he chased him down with some other policemen. And they told Landrum to go in and flush him out. That's when he quit.
He said, "This is not my main livelihood."
He says, "Me go in there?"
That'll make you a full-time ball player.
There you see how he points that bat over at the pitcher. Rocky Colavito did that.
1-1. Grounded to short. It could be 2. Tuffle double play. Santana to Tuffle to Hernandez ends the inning. A run on 2 hits here in the 8th inning for St. Louis. We'll go to the 9th with the Mets leading at 5-3 after this for Budweiser. Play turned by the Mets to end the 8th inning.
Ball was not hit too hard. Santana now playing shortstop. Gets it over to Tuffle. Perfect throw to Tuffle, and Tuffle on the first 4 of the double play against Landrum to end the inning. So the Mets come up here in the 9th, leading by a score of 5-3.
And Darryl Strawberry will lead it off against Todd Worrell. Strawberry to be followed by George Foster and Ray Knight. And Darryl probably happy to see a right-hander out there on the mound, although Worrell is no picnic, to say the least.
We mentioned that Worrell struck out 6 in a row in the World Series. The first to do it was Hod Eller in the 1919 World Series. That was the World Series that was fixed.
The Black Sox scandal.
The Black Sox, and so his might be tainted.
Strawberry fouls one off out of play deep down the left field line, and the count 1 strike.
His first 2 strikeouts we're talking about Hod Eller in 1919 were Chick Gandil and Swede Reisberg, and they were 2 of the convicted players that participated in the throwing of the 1919 World Series. Actually, they were never convicted in court, but they were kicked out of baseball. There were 8 men that were ejected from baseball for life. One of them, the great shoeless Joe Jackson.
So not having been there, we can probably surmise they might have swung at a bad ball or 2.
Might have.
Or taken one right down the middle. Strawberry takes high and away, and the count now 2-1.
Mo Dabrowski also did it. That was in the '66 World Series. He did it for Baltimore against the Dodgers.
Fastball drilled into right center. McGee over to cut it off. Strawberry trying to go for 2, and he's in there. Good hustling double by Darryl Strawberry to lead off the 9th inning.
Well, you watch Strawberry run, and you really don't think he's running full speed, but he covers the ground. And you can tell by that slide how hard it was, how fast he was going. Good play in the outfield, but Strawberry in safely. A second base umpire, Fred Brocklander, makes a call.
So Darryl on with his first hit of the day, and here's George Foster, who's 1 for 3. Foster drove in a run with a single to center in the 4th. We're in the 9th inning, nobody out, and the Mets leading 5-3, trying to sweep the Cardinals here in St. Louis for the first time since 1979. And again, a balloon gets on the field. Lee Wire, the third base umpire, takes care of it.
Boy, he's strong.
Lee is also quite an amateur magician, and he certainly made that disappear nicely, didn't he?
I like that trick.
Did George hold up? No, he did not. Going after the breaking ball, it's 0-1. Fastball a little bit high and away. 1-1. Jammed and popped up into short center, but it's going to fall for a base hit. Strawberry will be held at third as the ball comes into second. Darrell had to hold up a little bit to see if either shortstop Ozzie Smith or center fielder Willie McGee could get there. It's a base hit for Foster, and the Mets with runners at first and third and nobody out. And here's Ray Knight, 0 for 3. But Ray has continued to hit the ball well. He's hit the ball hard 2 of his 3 times up as Terry Leach begins to throw in the New York bullpen.
And with the Mets leading 5-3 in the top of the 9th, the Cardinals are pulling their infield in for a play at the plate.
Knight fouls it off for strike 1. The Cardinals trying to keep it close if they have any shot at doing anything in the bottom of the 9th inning. And of course, until Thursday night, when the Mets came back to win it in the 9th inning, the Cardinals had gone 90 games in a row without losing a ball game in which they led going into the 9th.
That dated all the way back to the last game of the 1984 season.
Fouled off again, and it's 0-2. Well, they have really been tough at home, as evidenced by the fact, as Tim McCarver pointed out earlier, that no club in the National League swept a series from them here last year. Pat Perry is in the St. Louis bullpen. Should Whitey Herzog need a left-hander, Len Dykstra, a left-handed hitter, is on deck. Way outside, it gets away from Heath, but not far enough for Strawberry to advance. So the count 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Heath makes a good play on this pitch. Hard slider, and it's off his glove. He had to move out quickly to get that glove to block it.
Well, that was a nasty breaking ball, wasn't it?
Looked like a Bob Gibson slider.
Oof. First and third and nobody out. 1-2 the count. Grounded into the hole. Pendleton up with it. Holds Strawberry and throws out Knight at first base. A good play by Terry Pendleton. Strawberry tried to get him to make a play on him in an effort to try to get the bases loaded.
Well, Terry turning in some fine plays in this ball game. Strawberry dancing down the line at third, tries to keep his attention long enough so Knight could beat it out, but Pendleton recovered and got the throw to first base for the out.
George Foster goes down to second, and Dykstra is going to be walked intentionally to load the bases now with 1 out.
And that would bring up the pitcher, Bob Ojeda. And it appears that he's going to be allowed to stay in the ball game. They could go to a pinch hitter.
Ojeda putting on the batting gloves, but he's also looking back at Davy Johnson while he does so.
First walk that the Mets have had in this ball game.
Well, Tudor, of course, pitching the first 7 innings, although he was touched for 2 home runs and 5 earned runs on 5 hits, did not walk a batter.
Pitcher Bob O'Heath.
Well, when you see a situation like this, you think squeeze play, so the Cardinals certainly able to think of it too. It would be a tough squeeze because the bases are loaded and you don't need to tag at home plate.
But Strawberry does have good speed at third. Ojita's 0 for 3. He's grounded out twice and struck out. And the infield at halfway for the Cardinals. Bases loaded and 1 out.
Now, if you're a pitcher hitting like this, you have to really think of running that ball out if you hit it on the ground.
Swinging away and fouling it out of play for strike 1. Pendleton was coming in at third base, but he still hustled back to the Mets bullpen to give that ball a look. Ojeda looking at third base coach Bud Harrelson. And we'll see if they change anything here. Still swinging away, and it's strike 2. The on-deck hitter change anything here. Still swinging away, and it's strike 2. The on-deck hitter is Rafael Santana, who would be batting for the first time after replacing Kevin Mitchell at shortstop. Grounded to second. Kerr comes home. They get Strawberry, but that's all. So the bases remain loaded now with 2 out.
Well, the infield is in for this forced play at home plate, and Ojeda runs hard, so they can't get the double play. Keith an idea about throwing, but then realized he had no chance to pick up the double play. So that leaves it up to Rafael Santana batting for the first time.
Santana hitting only 174. No homers and 2 RBIs on the year, but he has shown signs lately of coming out of his batting slump. He was 0 for 20. And it's looped into foul territory. Jack Clark over and makes the play, and the inning is over. So the Mets fail to score, even though they load the bases with a couple of base hits and a walk here in the 9th inning. We will go to the bottom of the 9th here in St. Louis, with the Mets leading 5-3 after this for 4. Kiner and Tim McCarver bringing you Mets baseball as always on WOR. Bob Ojeda working into the 9th inning with a 5-3 lead over the St. Louis Cardinals. And in the bottom of the 9th, he will be facing Terry Pendleton with Mike Heath scheduled up second, and then the pitcher Todd Worrell scheduled up third. So at least one pinch hitter in the first 3 as you look at the line score on the ball game. Pendleton 2 for 3 with an infield hit, a single to right, and 2 stolen bases.
Third baseman Terry Pendleton.
John Tudor, the losing pitcher so far in this ball game, he was bailed out of a loss in Chicago when the Cardinals scored 2 in the 8th on a triple by Clint Hurdle. And then the Cubs won it later on against another pitcher.
Ball 1 low and inside to Pendleton. And now the 40,000 on hand getting behind their ball club. And Pendleton flies one to left field. Foster running over near the line, gets there and makes the catch. 1 out.
Catcher Mike Heath.
Mike Heath will be the batter, and Clint Hurdle has come out on deck. Even though Hurdle is a left-handed hitter, And Ojeda, a left-handed pitcher. Apparently Hurdle will bat for Worrell. Mike Heath is 0 for 3. 0 for 13 against the Mets this season. And has been struggling at the plate. Fouled back for strike one.
Van Hurdle with the Mets last year did not have a hit as a pinch hitter in 16 at-bats.
And this year for the Cardinals, he's 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter. Pop up in the short right field. Strawberry coming on with plenty of time. 2 away.
So Ojeda, who had 5 complete games last year for the Red Sox, in a position to pick up his first complete game for the Mets.
Clint Hurdle hitting .750 on the year, 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter, and 3 for 4 overall. No homers and 2 RBIs. Those 2 RBIs on the triple that you mentioned, Ralph, against Chicago in a pinch hitting role. Ball 1 is low. 2 out, nobody on, bottom of the 9th, and the Mets leading 5-3. And a drive down the right field line, but it's hooking foul. One and one.
Home run doesn't scare you right here because it would not tie up the ball game.
Good pitch from Ojeda. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Two and 2 now.
Hurdle had 3 home runs for the Mets last year.
There's a drive to right field. Strawberry back on the warning track. Makes the catch, and the Mets have swept the Cardinals. For the first time since 1979, in September of that year, the Mets win 4 straight here in St. Louis. They have also now won 9 games in a row and increased their lead over St. Louis to 4.5 games in the National League East. Bob Ojeda going the distance. He is now 3-0, and John Tudor suffers his first loss. He is 3-1 on the year. Ralph and I'll be right back to wrap it up. Tim standing by for an interview. Stay with us. The Mets have won it 5-3. Now here's a word from Nissan.
By a score of 5-3, the winning pitcher in the ball game was Bob Ojeda, his first complete game with the New York Mets. And let's go down to Tim McCarver and his special guest.
All right, Ralph, after John Tudor had retired the first 9 Mets to face him today, Kevin Mitchell led off the 4th inning with his first major league home run, and I'm telling you, you got all of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Did you really think it was going to be out?
Well, I got it pretty good. Now, I thought it had a good chance, I saw Coleman out and left, he kind of gave up, and that kind of gave me a, good idea that it was going out. So.
What was it like your first major league start at shortstop? Had you ever played there before?
No, I was pretty nervous going out there. That's why on that double play ball, I felt kind of nervous, and it got to me, and I kind of gave Tim Tuffle the bad feed. So.
Did you play there in the minor leagues, Kev? Any shortstop?
No, I ain't never played shortstop. I kind of played around and doing infield, and that was it.
And of course in spring training too.
Yeah, that one game.
One difference in playing shortstop in the big leagues and other places, I would imagine, is the turf's a little hotter, huh? Tell us that story about your feet.
Oh, that turf is hot out there. I got to go in here and soak my feet now. I've been putting my feet in ammonia water every inning I come in, because I got a little blister on the bottom of my feet. So.
What about the way the club's playing, Kev? It seems as though the Mets can do no wrong right now.
Well, right now, we are running pretty good here, and I enjoyed being on a winning team, I always played on a good team that always won, so, it's a great thrill for me.
Well, it was a thrilling day for you today. Congratulations. Continued success. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin Mitchell, the star of the game today. The Mets have now won 9 in a row, equaling last year's 2 9-game streaks. They did it twice last year. We go to Atlanta after the ball game, and before we go to Atlanta, we're going to go back to the booth to Steve and Ralph.
Okay, Tim, you know, they put a thermometer on that field one time, and it was 160 degrees on a hot day here in St. Louis. We'll be back with more of the wrap-up right after this word from Sunoco.
Out 26 so far this year, Zane Smith.
And Zane Smith has his work cut out for him because he's going to pitch to the team that has the highest batting average in the National League, the New York Mets.